Hi ladies, so today's video is going to be on a comparison of the Naked, the Naked palette. I had done a previous video about the Naked 2 palette. I had found a website off of Pinterest that claimed that they sold Naked 2 palettes for $16. Went on the website, purchased it, and then did a comparison video of the $16 version compared to the $50 version. So got a lot of reviews, a lot of responses or whatever, so I am now going to do the same type of video on the Naked palette. I went and purchased the Naked palette off the website, and I will put the information down in the information bar. And then I went out to Ulta and purchased the real one. Now for the purpose of this video, I'm going to call the $16 version the cheap one, and the $50 version from Ulta the real one. So cheap one, real one. But basically I'm going to go through and kind of tell you similarities and differences. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now the $16 version that I got off the website definitely has different packaging than the one from the real one. This is the real one, this is the cheap one. But if you look at it, the packaging, it has the same information. Obviously, it both says Naked by Urban Decay, and it also has the same colors and everything. Now when I compare the colors, they're the same exact, it has the same exact information, it has the same exact ingredients. Says beauty with an edge. We don't do animal testing. How could anyone? Says the same thing. Our neutrals won't leave you naked. 12-dimensional. Ooh, there is difference. The real one says 12-dimensional shades, including 4 exclusives. The cheap one says 12 multifaceted shades, including 4 exclusives. Yeah, it's okay. Escalate your basics and rich, yeah, it's completely different. I will put the verbiage, just so I don't confuse you with comparison, but I will put the verbiage of the real one down in the information bar compared to the cheap one, because they are different. They are different, but by like a couple words or whatever. But other than that, the packaging is pretty much the same. The colors are the same. The packaging is not the same. The colors are the same. The packaging is different. Now, in the cheap one, let's see, I can open it, if I can open it. Kind of looks like this. And, you know, you have your mirror and everything, and won't blind you, but it goes back like this. Now, in the real one, it has the same, it looks to be the same. Now, obviously, a second big difference is the cheap one does not have the Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion that the $50 version from Ulta does, the real one. So that's different. Let's pop this real one out. And, okay, the colors are different, so it's easier to keep. The cheap one's on top, the real one's on bottom. The cheap one is obviously a lighter shade of brown than the real one. So it's easy to keep separated, but they both have, now I will say, the cheap one has kind of a felty feel to it, and you can see some of the gold lettering. I don't know if you can see, some of the gold lettering is flicked off. The real one has kind of a suede velvety, I would say probably more of a velvety feel to it, and obviously the Naked part, the writing is in perfect condition. So let's open it up and kind of do a comparison. Both of them, both of them look identical in size. I'll flip it over so you can see at least the colors. They both flip over the same, both kind of the same makeup and everything. The one on the bottom is the real one, and the one on the top is the cheap one. Yeah, I can already see kind of a big difference in the colors. But that's how they look, and I'll go through and swatch them. I want to look at the brush. Okay, so the real brush has it's heavy, Urban Decay shadow. You can see that it's kind of like a little kind of a flat eyeshadow brush. The one in the cheap version is the same, but it's definitely, wow, a lot This one, the real one, is definitely a lot heavier than the cheap one, and they're different colors. I don't know if you can see. This one is more of a silver. The one from the real one is more of a silver. The one from the cheap one is more of a rose gold, kind of a bronze look. And the brushes are completely the same, or completely different. This one is the cheap one, and this one is the real one. So definitely completely two different brushes. Put those down. Just kind of looking at the eyeshadows, just kind of see, what I'm interested to see, and maybe, you know, if you know of this or whatever, I'm interested to see if Urban Decay had changed their packaging, because obviously the Naked palette is the older palette, so it's probably been out for a while, and obviously as things are out and they kind of evolved and, you know, stuff like that, they could have changed their packaging, because in the real one the eyeshadows are bigger than the cheap one on top. So you can definitely get more of the eyeshadow. Now, it might not be as thick. Maybe the cheap one is deeper and these are just wider. The real one is just wider. But definitely can tell the difference just by looking at it, that the real one is definitely looks bigger. Now, going through kind of the colors, I can see some big changes. The Virgin, let me see if I can do this. So I had a problem with the, I'm just going to go through, okay. The Virgin right here, on the cheap one, is definitely more, has more of a sheen to it than the Virgin on the bottom. This is Sin. Definitely is a little bit lighter than the one on the bottom. Let's see, this is Naked. Naked, I would say, is a little bit lighter. Let me get closer and see if you guys can see. Hopefully you can see a little bit of a difference. I mean, the colors are just slightly off. Not major, but just enough, like when you look at them, to kind of see a little bit of different. Hustle kind of looks the same. Creep, from the real one, has a lot more sparkle, where the Creep on the cheap one has more of a sheeny sparkle, not so sparkly. Half Baked, I actually like the Half Baked color from the real one a little bit better than the Half Baked and the Naked one. So we're going to go through, I mean, definitely some differences between the two just by looking at the colors, but I'm going to go through and swatch them for you so you guys can see. And I'm going to use different eyeshadow brushes. So let's see. This is Gunmetal, and this is from the cheap one, and this is Gunmetal from the real one. So you can see definitely a difference. And so this is the cheap one, this is the real one. I would say, and this is kind of what I found in the other one, the cheap one is definitely more pigmented than the real one. The cheap one, as you can see, it's not as sparkly. It's almost like more sheeny. And this one, the real one, has a little bit more sparkle. I don't know if you can see it on my skin, but it just sparkles a little bit more. Whereas the cheap one doesn't sparkle that much. It just kind of has a sheen to it. The real one kind of looks brown. I mean, even in, I thought maybe it was the lighting, but even when I look at it in the mirror, it kind of has a brown tinge. It's just not as pigmented as the cheap one. So let me clean off my brush so I can kind of give you guys a real... Okay, the next one we're going to do is Creep. Now this one is from, now they're going to be a little bit more darker because my brush, I had to clean it off, so, okay. So this is from the real, or the cheap palette, this is from the real. Obviously completely different. I try to swipe them the same. The real one is definitely more pigmented, but I think that you could work up to that color if you did the cheap one just a little bit more. But definitely the same tone. Like I said, just a little bit less pigmented than the real one, but definitely in the same color scheme, whereas these look like they're slightly different formulas. Let me use this one. The next one is Hustle. And the funny thing is, okay, so this is Hustle. This is Hustle and the cheap one, and this is Hustle and the real one. Very similar, actually so close that can't even really tell a difference. The only difference is the real one had a lot more fallout than the cheap one. I don't know if you can see like the little balls on my skin, but definitely when I put the real one on, it just kind of has a lot more fallout than the cheap one. Like even on the eyeshadow plate, just tons of fallout. I'm gonna put this on my leg. So I was using a wet rag, and I'm afraid that it might like make the colors look a little bit more in your face. Okay, now this color might be, this is the color Toasted. And again, okay, so this is the cheap one and this is the real one. Obviously the cheap one a little less pigmented than the real one, but the real one has crazy fallout. Let me just show you so you can kind of see. Right here is the real one, and you can just see all that fallout, whereas the Toasted and the cheap one, barely any. And I'm using the same exact e.l.f. eyeshadow brush. They're identical, so it's not even that the brushes make them different or anything like that. It's definitely, the real one has a lot more fallout. So let's do Dark Horse next. Now Dark Horse and the cheap one looks to be a little bit more, has a little bit more gray, like more of a bronzy, whereas the Dark Horse and the real one looks to be more brown. Okay, so that's that. Let me get this one. Yeah, crazy fallout. I mean, crazy from the real one. Okay, so this is the Dark Horse from the cheap one. This is the Dark Horse from the real one. And you can see, I don't know if you can see, I mean, crazy fallout. It does have some fallout from the cheap one, but not as much. I mean, look at that. You can see it in there. Same brush. Now this one definitely had a little bit more, but I mean, this is just, I mean, just sitting there. That's how much fallout was. It's crazy to me. But same tone. I mean, not crazy different when you put them on the skin. Okay, sorry about that. My camera gave out. So kind of was leaving off. This is the Dark Horse. This is the Dark Horse and the real one. This is the Dark Horse and the cheap one, and just a little slightly off. The main difference that I'm seeing, I mean, the colors are slightly off, but like I said in my last video, if you go to Home Depot and you buy a paint color and I get one and you get the same exact one, they're going to be slightly different depending on what the formula is. I mean, they try to make it identical, but it's not always perfect. But the biggest thing that I'm noticing so far in the real one is it has a lot more fallout than the cheap one. So let's see, let me do this. The next one is Smog. And this is kind of a goldy bronze color. Okay. So this is the Smog and the cheap. This is Smog and the real. Definitely more pigment in the real, but again, had crazy fallout. I guess I had the same amount of fallout in the cheap one. So definitely kind of the same amount of fallout. Again, slightly different, a little bit more pigmented in the real, not as pigmented in the cheap one, but without looking at it on the camera, they actually look very, very similar, and it's still a very, very dark color, but they actually off camera, they look very, very similar. Right, there you go. That's a little bit better. Very close. I mean, not crazy where it's like, oh my gosh, that's a completely different color. Crazy amount of fallout. Okay, the next one is Half Baked. I'm going to do this on my hand. Now this color is going to be really hard for you guys to see on my skin tone because it's very, very similar to my skin tone. So I'm going to pack it on just a little bit just so you can kind of see the difference. But this is a big difference. Right here, if you could see that, that's the Half Baked out of the cheap one. This is the Half Baked out of the real one. This is definitely a more gold. This is more cream. So I would say these are probably the most drastic change of the colors that I've seen so far, where they're not even close. I definitely like the real one better. It's more of a gold. I like gold better. It kind of has a little bit more pigment, and even off camera, it's just a really, really pretty color. Whereas the Half Baked here, I actually have been using this palette since I got it last week, and I use this color on the inner corner of my eyes because it's not so crazy, but it does kind of brighten the eyes, but definitely a difference between the two colors. Clean off my brush. The next one is Buck, and again, in the palette, this color looks completely different from each other. Looks like two different eyeshadows. And this is a very, very matte color. You can see this is the cheap one. This is the real one. So definitely more pigmented in the real one, not as pigmented in the cheap one, but kind of the same tone. I think you can build this up to here. But in the palette, the cheap one looks more like a light brown, and the cheap one, or the real one, kind of looks more of a reddish light brown. Has a little bit more of the red undertone to it, whereas the cheap one does not. It's kind of more of a muted light brown, but both of them are matte. But definitely, I would say a big difference, not so drastic on the hand. I mean, obviously, the real one is more pigmented than the cheap one, but it's not that drastic on your hand. The next one is Sidecar. And this one is just really, really pretty. Just kind of looking at it in the palette, yeah, whoa, two different colors. The real one looks much more glittery, whereas the cheap one looks much more sheen. Kind of has a sheen frosty finish. Okay, so here's the real one, or I'm sorry, here's the fake one. Here's the cheap one. Blah, blah, blah. And here is the real one. Definitely has more glitter, whereas this one's more frosty. This one, the real one, I would say has more of like a rose gold undertone, whereas the cheap one kind of just has a brown undertone, like a brown gold undertone, whereas this is more rose gold. I like this one better. It's very, very pretty. I really like that one. But in the palette, you can see the Sidecar and the real one has more glitter in it, whereas the Sidecar and the cheap one has absolutely no glitter. I can't see any shimmer in it. I mean, I see a frostiness, but not glitter. Next one is Naked. We're almost done. I know, I hate making these videos so long, but it's just so hard to show you all the swatches and stuff like that. And I could do them on my arm already, but I kind of want you to see, you know, me put them on and talk about each one of them and the textures and fallout and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm going to spin my arm around. This is the cheap one, and this is the real one. Very, very similar. I'm like going to break my wrist trying to show you guys this. Very, very similar. The fallout was actually the same, and it's very, very similar in the palette. In the pan, they're almost identical. Slight difference, but nothing major that I would go, oh my gosh, that's a completely different color. I'm trying to figure out if I have any more. Here, I'll do it right here. Any more skin left. Now the next one is Sin. And again, my skin tone is so fair. So bear with me because you might not be able to see this one on my skin. It's a pinky. It's kind of a pink metallic. I'm going to kind of pump up the color just so you guys can actually see. But yeah. Whoa. Yeah. This is the real one. This is the cheap, or I'm sorry, this is the cheap one. This is the real one. The real one definitely has more pigment in it. Again, has more sparkles, glitter in it. This one has more frosty, and I know you can't really see, you can kind of see it right there, but it's definitely not pigmented, and apparently I have a pink Sin color to my skin because you can barely see it. So I apologize that. But definitely the real one, oh, all this fallout is crazy. The real one is much more pigmented, and I think that's when we're finding with most of them is the real one definitely has more pigment to it. Okay, so the last one, and let me see if I have any more. I'll do it right here. Yeah, I'll do it right there. Again, probably not gonna be able to tell. Maybe because it's frosty, you'll be able to actually tell it on me. But this is the color Virgin, and wow, they're completely different colors. Yeah. Okay. Let me find them. Oh wow, you're not gonna be able to see that at all. If you can see that shimmery shade right there is the Virgin in the cheap palette. This color right here, which you're not going to see because it is so close to my skin tone, is the one in the real palette. The one in the real palette is more of a, for lack of a better word, like a fair, shimmery, yellowish, maybe pink, a fair pink color. It doesn't have a lot of shimmer, it doesn't have any glitter in it, whereas the one in the cheap one actually has, you can actually see the frostiness to it. It actually has like a frost, whereas the real one, I mean, just doesn't. It's kind of like a nude pink, if you will. So that's it. Those are the colors. Again, I mean, some of them, I would say overall, the real one, it has much more pigmented colors, but I will say that the fallout is crazy. The cheap one definitely does not have as much fallout as the real one. I don't know why that is. The brushes are completely different. The packaging is different. Obviously, with the cheap one, you don't get the eyeshadow primer potion. But other than that, I mean, they're similar, but I don't know. They're not, it's hard to tell with these if they're real or not, and that's kind of what I said with my Naked 2. Even if they're super similar, it could be a really good replica, but these colors are probably more different or more extreme than the other one. But I still, again, it could be, sorry, I was like super sliding off my chair, but it could be, my cat just jumped in the room, that's the noise. But it could be that just different, maybe they changed their packaging, maybe it had, it was a different batch, and maybe it's like Home Depot, when you get a paint, you can't get exactly the same. But again, the real one definitely had more pigmented colors, the cheap one definitely had less fallout. I guess the question is, you know, it's I paid $16 for the $16 one. I have used it every single day this week. I used it in combination with my Naked 2 palette. If you have never used the Naked or Naked 2 palette, oh my gosh, my dog and my cat are playing. Definitely, I would recommend getting them. But I will put all the information in the bottom. I will link my other videos and put my other videos of the Naked 2 just in case you want to see the comparison to them. But, and I will also put the website of where I purchased these. Now this is a website again that I saw off of Craigslist, I saw off of Pinterest, I purchased product from it, and I had a pleasant experience. I'm not promoting the product, I'm not promoting the website. I cannot say 100% if they're legit. I ordered a product, I got the product that I received, and my credit card information has not been stolen yet. And I've done two purchases, two separate purchases. They do $50. If you spend $50 or more, you get free shipping. I've done that both times, so I spent over $100 and got a lot of benefit products and everything. And like I said, haven't had my credit card information stolen, have had a pleasant experience or pleasant purchasing both times. So again, I'm not promoting the website. I don't get any money from the website. I can't say that it's legitimate, but I got what I think to be maybe not 100% real, I can't tell, but something really, really close. The colors are still, and the cheap one are still beautiful. Here's the cheap one. They blend very, very well. I use the e.l.f. Primer on my lid. They stay all day. I mean, you can see, I don't know if you can see, that's all day, no touch up. It stays well, they blend beautifully, they're awesome colors. So definitely give it a try, look into it. Again, I can't guarantee that they're not going to steal your credit card information, but I've had two pleasant experiences so far. But if you're not comfortable with purchasing from the website, hopefully this kind of gives you a good idea of what the Naked palette is. There's 1,000 tutorials on YouTube about the Naked palette and the Naked 2 palettes and all different looks you can do. I see a lot of kind of dark complected you know, Spanish and stuff like that, or darker hair do the tutorials. I've seen a couple, you know, fair skin, but I own both of them. They look beautiful. I have fair skin, I have kind of darker eyes, but a little bit lighter, and I have light hair, and they look awesome. I paid $16 for both of mine. I would pay $50 for both of mine because that's how much I love it, but I'm happy paying $16. I'm glad to get two for under the price of one. But hopefully you ladies enjoyed this video, and like I said, I will put the links to my Naked 2 comparison down below, and let me know if you have any comments. Bye.